Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Friday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. Okay, y'all, things moving quickly last night with LSU pursuing Missouri defensive coordinator Blake Baker, trying to bring him back to Baton Rouge. So that's kind of where we'll start. I'm sure much of our conversation will center around here this morning. Excuse me. A few things. I'll let that audience build a little bit live here. So smash the like button if you are there on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook. Please like the Matt Moscona page. Share the post. Appreciate y'all for being there with us. Come on, scroll up. There it is. Boom. Pop. All right. So LSU pretty heavy in its pursuit of Missouri defense coordinator Blake Baker. Forgive me. I'm going to lace my new shoes. What do y'all think of those, by the way? Christmas gift. Let me get the tag off there. Anyway. I'm going to lace these up while we talk here this morning. So, kind of fill y'all in on what I know, at least what I can say. So, last evening, so this has been Thursday evening, I got a call that LSU was in pretty hot pursuit of Blake Baker, and they're trying to push him to make a decision. And that Eli Drinkwitz was working to keep Blake Baker at Missouri. So remember, Baker just finished up. He had been on staff at LSU as the linebackers coach. Oddly enough, when Kelly came in, Baker was one of the coaches that was fired. Or not retained, however you want to say it. So it would be so interesting if... here now 2 years later, Blake Baker, Corey Raymond, guys that weren't retained are back. And there's another, I can't believe this news hasn't gotten out there. There's another staffer, an off-field staffer that LSU is pursuing as well. And I can't believe, I'm not going to be the one to say the name, but I can't believe it hasn't gotten out there that this is likely to happen. But anyway, so I know that's a terrible tease, and my apologies for it. But anyway, so LSU pursuing Baker, they made him their top target. That the talks were very intense yesterday, and Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz last night made a hard push to try to keep Blake Baker. As I understand it, Baker said he wanted to sleep on it. So we'll see. I don't know if LSU will have a defensive coordinator today. I don't know that I'm confident in saying that. I'm pretty sure they'll at least know if it's going to be Blake Baker today. If it's not going to be Blake Baker today, then they need to move on to who's next. And the other name that I heard prominently was DJ Durkin. So that's not to say that's what will happen, but that was the other sort of prominent name that was popular before they sort of zeroed in on Baker. So I know, I think maybe Matt Zenitz or someone over at 247, first had that Baker was LSU's primary target or their top target, I think is how they phrased it. And I'll confirm that LSU is zeroed in on Blake Baker. It's just a matter of, can they get the deal done? Can they get him to leave Missouri? I know, and look, he just agreed to a new contract at Missouri. So, there's a hurdle to get over there, but it sounds like the money, Missouri and LSU, the money is going to be comparable. So it's really a matter of, what does he want to do? Where does he want to be? Sort of thing. If the money is comparable. The thing that you may not know about Baker, or you may have just forgotten if you did know it, but so Baker's from Houston, but his wife is from Mandeville and played soccer at LSU. So they have family near here. That's one big part of it. His wife was like an all SEC soccer player at LSU, and she went to Fontainebleau, and she's from Mandeville, went to Fontainebleau, came to LSU, and so they have ties here. Obviously, her family is just down the road, Mandeville, so they got 3 kids. So like that's a part of it that a lot of times I think we don't consider when we talk about coaching hires and stuff as family considerations. Like there's some with Bo Davis we'll talk about in a second, but so that's one part with Baker is the family connection here. The other part is the money's comparable as I understand it with LSU and Mizzou, so that's not really the driver. You can win a national championship at LSU. You're not going to win a national championship at Missouri. So do you want to come to LSU and try to win a national championship? Be close to your family. And the other thing too is, because when I was having this conversation last night with an agent, I was saying, what? I mean, Mizzou seems like a great spot. They're paying him well. I mean, he's got tremendous job security. They had success. You win 10, 11 games there. They're thrilled. I mean, LSU just won 10 games and fired the whole defensive staff. I mean, think about that. I mean, the defense was atrocious, but you just won 10 games and you fired the defensive staff. But which in a vacuum sounds weird, doesn't it? Hey man, you won 10 games. They fired half the staff. Really? Was there a scandal? No, you get it though. Anyway, so for Baker, and if you're just joining, I'm lacing new shoes. That's what. So you can win a champion. He's got great job security at Missouri. The money's comparable, but you come to LSU. You're closer to your wife's family. You can win a championship, and then also, if you come to LSU, as bad as the defense was this past year, and you fix the defense, then you skyrocket to an inside track of being a head coach. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, you will not get as much notoriety being Missouri's defensive coordinator as you will if you come to Baton Rouge and take a defense that was, the worst ever and make them super competitive again, right? Because it would be very easy next year if LSU's defense is good to say, okay, well, what's different? Well, Blake Baker's the DC. So just a few things to consider. And I don't know what Blake Baker's going to do. Again, I want to be very clear so there's no misunderstanding about what I say on Morning Scone relative to a coach. I do not know what Blake Baker's going to do. I know LSU is zeroed in on him. He's their number one guy. The conversations were very earnest last night. Drinkwitz pushed to keep Baker there. Was told he wanted to sleep on it. So I think we'll probably know today if it's Baker, and if it's not, then LSU has to go to the drawing board and see who's. Did I miss a hole? I missed a hole. Gosh dog it! I knew that felt wrong. Missed one. Anyway, that's what I did. Dummy. You dumb head. That's what my gram says. You dumb head. You. Anyway. Is that right? Let's see if that's right. Okay, that's better. Okay, good. Anyway, all right, let's say some good morning, see what y'all got. I'm told Corey and Bo, Corey Raymond, Bo Davis still very much in play. I think, barring some dramatic disapproval or opposition from the new defensive coordinator, whomever that is, I think Corey Raymond gets done. The tricky part with Bo Davis right now, it's the contract. He's got I told you, he made $1 million a year at Texas, and he wants more here. And LSU was trying to negotiate with him to talk him down, sort of give him the old hometown discount. So we'll see. But what happens there? He was also got a big buyout at Texas. So I mean, if you come this far, you're really going to let money stop you from getting the staff that you want? Probably not. But still, there are hurdles that have to be cleared, and until they are, it's never done. But hey, one other thing to keep in mind too is, and I don't know how significant this may weigh in for Bo Davis, but Bo's son, Bo, is a defensive lineman at Southeastern in Hammond. So, I don't know if maybe the opportunity to be closer to his son, or I mean, I have no idea if that's like a potential transfer type situation where Bo Davis is here, he can get his son here and coach his son. I don't know, but that's something else worth keeping in mind that I know is out there. I mean, when you talk about family ties and a lot of these conversations, so something else to consider with Bo. So, okay, we'll say some good mornings here. Done lacing my shoes. There they are. They're pretty. Anyway, all right. Put them dudes on. There we go. All right. Let's go. We ready? Got them Jordans. Air Jordans. All right, let's say some good mornings here. Y'all smash the like button. Tim Gotro, Wendell Norman, my friend Michael. Good morning. Jacob Thompson, what's up? Zach Swan, Wacky Chris, morning. What are your thoughts? What do we know about the transfer DB from Ohio State? Well, Wacky Chris, if you listen to Morning Scone or AFR for any length of time, like I know you do from time to time, you would have heard me talk about Zaire Brown from the very beginning. I told you there were 3 cornerbacks that they were pursuing that were kids from Louisiana who had gone and played elsewhere. One was DeCameron Richardson, who was at Mississippi State. LSU thought they were going to get him. Ultimately, he picked Ole Miss. Zaire Brown's another. Zaire Brown started his high school career. He's from Louisiana, plays the first couple years of high school ball here. His family moved to Cincinnati, and then ultimately he committed to Ohio State, and he's played the last couple years at Ohio State, but that was the other one. And the third, I'd always forget this kid's name. I can't remember it. I looked for it yesterday. I couldn't find it, but it's a kid from Kentucky who's a defensive back from Louisiana who's playing at Kentucky. So those were the 3 that I was told from the very beginning, but they landed Zaire Brown, and that's big. I'll tell you, Zaire Brown is a better player than any cornerback you had on your roster this year. And so if Brown comes in as an immediate starter, J.K. Johnson, Zy Alexander get healthy, you are a more competent cornerback room, certainly than you were this year. That don't take much, but that also may allow you to take some of your some of the guys that play safety and played corner this year out of necessity, Sage Ryan, Javian Toviano, and put them back at safety. So, Jesse Brown, 11 Picayune, working NOLA. What radio station in New Orleans area can I get AFR? Yeah, it's 100.3, 100.3 FM, ESPN Radio New Orleans. Thank you. Kyle DeVille, good morning. Daniel Roof, morning, Matt. With LSU adding the DB from Ohio State, I'm assuming Zion and JK returning. What's the DB room looking like? There you go. Yeah, just talked about that a smidge. So, yeah, you'll have those guys, and then we'll see how JK and Zy look coming off of injuries. But, yes, Zaire Brown, the 2 guys we just mentioned there, and then you've got young guys like Ashton Stamps. And, again, I don't know if they moved Toviano back to safety from corner, but you got the 2 young kids coming in this class. Jeremiah Hughes, who played corner this past year as well. So you got bodies there, and you get maybe an opportunity for some of those younger guys to grow and develop a little more before you got to throw them in the deep end. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Did you see Dressed Like Kim Mulkey night? I did. That was pretty funny. I think it was on SportsCenter too. Irfan Zayad, Juan, good morning. Has the OC job search taken a secondary role? Yeah, see, I think, Juan, here's the thing there. I think they have to figure out how they divvy up roles. So, for example, Mike Denbrock was your OC and your tight ends coach. If you promote Joe Sloan, then you hire a tight ends coach. I've told you before, I believe that would be Slade Nagel from Tulane. That's the name I've heard. If you hire a new OC who's not a tight ends coach, then you have to go hire a tight ends coach. So now you're adding not 1 but 2 staffers on the offensive side, which means you have to take away a staffer from the defensive side. So does that mean if you bring in Corey Raymond to be your cornerbacks coach, does he coach the entire secondary and you don't have a safeties coach? Remember, you retained John Jancic, Bob Diaco. Did they stay in their roles? Does one of them go back off field? There's also talk, Brian Kelly said, of hiring a true special teams coordinator, who that is their job, is hiring is to do special teams. Well, if you have a special teams coordinator, how does that divvy up? if you do hire Blake Baker and he's your linebackers coach, okay, he handles linebackers. Does you hire a defensive line coach? Does Jancic go and coach outside linebackers again, which he was supposed to do this year? Does Diaco coach special teams? You see what I mean? There's a lot of ways, because you only have 10 full-time assistants. So I wouldn't say that it's secondary. I think it's you had to move here on Baker, and then the other assistants we talked about with Bo Davis and Corey, if you're able to push that across the finish line, then you can kind of start to piece together how the rest of that staff looks on both sides of the ball, and if they bring in a special teams coordinator, which I heard they would like to do. Bubba Tatum, William Moore, Eric Wilderrider, good morning. Really enjoyed the exercise you and T-Bob did comparing Kelly's new staff versus the old. With the benefit of 2 years hindsight, how would that assessment change? It wouldn't. And it was actually stunningly accurate, Eric. So we did that on Scone and T whenever Kelly was hired, and he hired his first staff. And we said, okay, look at the 2021 staff, Ogeron's last staff, and then Kelly's first staff. And across the board, the staff was better at every spot, except defensive backs, where you lost Corey Raymond and you brought in Robert Steeples to coach corners. And we said special teams, where you let Greg McMahon walk and you didn't hire a special teams coordinator. I think everywhere else, you're better. Bringing in Frank Wilson, you're better. Brad Davis was retained. They brought in Jamar Cain to coach defensive line. And Andre Carter was good, but he was only here for a year. But Jamar Cain. So I think you were better everywhere. OC, we thought House DC was better than Durante. Certainly Denbrock was better than Pete's. So you were better everywhere across the board except the two spots we said. I think that held up. Gary Petrie, morning, Uncle Scone. You have any good stories to tell? Huey Miller, it's Austin from Texas A&M, right? The off-field staffer. Austin from Texas A&M. Austin from Texas A&M? I don't know an Austin with Texas A&M. Matt Plavadal, morning, Matt. Was working today, then off today, now working today. Gotta love the post office. Jake Nola, if you're talking about Austin Thomas, it's making the rounds on the message boards. I'm stunned that hasn't gotten out. Like that. Yeah, by the way, so Austin's at Ole Miss. He's not at Texas A&M, he's at Ole Miss. And I think they still have some I's to dot, T's to cross, things like that. But I'm just really surprised, as far along as those conversations are, that nothing about that has leaked to that nobody's reported that. Anyway, Chad Vickner, Michael Phillips, Paul Evie, Irfan Sayad. How about this heater the Otter is on? Otter 2-1 last night on his 3 college basketball picks after a 3-0 night the night before, after nailing his college basketball pick on Tuesday. Jimmy's rolling, man. Daniel Roof, any word on adding another defensive lineman in the portal? Not that I've heard, not yet. I think they're waiting to hear. I mean, I mentioned this yesterday on AFR. I'll say it here. I know that LSU, especially since the staff changes, that they've gone back to Mekhi Wingo to try to make a pitch to get him to return. I don't know if he will. Very candidly, I have no idea if he will. But I know they are trying to pitch him to stay. It sounds like it's trending toward Jacoby and Guillory returning, which would be great. And I think Mason Smith is very torn. I think in his mind, he's always been a 3-year and then to the league guy. But but he would probably stand to benefit from another year, because he's a guy that if he comes out this year is going to have a wide variety of draft grades. But if he returns and plays well, he could be a first rounder. I mean, he could literally make $10 million by returning. So that's an interesting one. Anthony Silver, Jay Geiger, Deborah Coward, good morning. Peter Fennert, who had Dolph Cleman, is fake on their 2024 bingo card. Peter, I don't know if you're just kind of trolling me here, but I mean, I've done the Dolph Cleman thing for years now. Like that has always annoyed me. That we did that bit on. I mean, I've done that story on AFR that rant on AFR. The fact that Dolph Cleman is he doesn't actually break news. He's just a news aggregator. He goes and takes other people's stuff and puts it on Twitter. And anyway, and he sources them, but in a way that it makes it still sound as if it's his news. And yeah, anyway, I've done the Dolph Cleman thing for a long time, actually. Kelly Gross, Bubba Smith, Samuel Merrifield. Matt, I heard you say KSU. KSU football schedule next year will be tough. Do you think they do well with football season next year? I don't know if you meant to put KSU or if that's LSU, if like you just mistyped there. I think LSU's schedule next year is extremely difficult. They may be a better team with a worse record. Jason Horn, Glenn Laurie, what's up? Jason, segment on AFR yesterday, you were talking about the collective putting up money. You said I spend my money on whiskey and shoes. Good stuff. I do. If you missed it yesterday, I did include that on LSU Daily today. I did a big, long segment yesterday on LSU's collective, on NIL. Probably threw a lot of stuff out there that many people haven't heard yet. So if you're interested, it was the first segment of Hour 3, but it's also on LSU Daily if you want to check it out. Randy Smith, word on the street is Don McKinley was unblockable at times during practice for one of the All-American Bowls. Okay. Brent Roban, morning Scone, just racked up quite the dentist bill for myself. Busy life with job, 3 kids. I finally made it in. First ever crown being put on in a few weeks. Brant, I have no sympathy for you. I probably should, but I have no sympathy for you. I have gone to the dentist for my 6-month checkup and cleaning my entire life, even into adulthood, ever since I've been out of the house and on my own. So don't neglect your teeth, people. Mike Concho, good morning. Trey Fisher, Mark Bayard, good morning. Here in Tampa listening with my 2 kiddos, Nola and Cooper. All right, Nola and Cooper, good morning, y'all. Thanks for being here with us. Mark Acock, does the lack of chatter on an offensive coordinator mean that they're likely looking internal for a replacement with Sloan? I don't necessarily think that's what it means, Mark. If they were going to do that, I think they would have done it already. As I said, I think they were not planning on replacing Matt House. I know some of y'all don't believe that, but I am telling you, that Monday into Tuesday was kind of an avalanche. And then when that happened and they sort of quickly identified Blake Baker, while the Corey Raymond, Bo Davis stuff has still been out there, they kind of had to move quickly, because one thing that could potentially derail the assistants is if you hire if you prioritize your defensive coordinator, and if you prioritize, if you prioritize your defense coordinator, and your defensive coordinator vetoes an assistant hire, well, you have to get that ironed out first. Corey Gotro, good morning. Greg Phillips, good morning. Who do you want for the next OC? Who do you think will likely get the job? I don't know who gets the job. I'd be interested to see what Joe Sloan could do. However, I feel about Joe similar to the way I felt about Jake Peetz, where you have a young guy who could very well do an awesome job, but do you take that risk at a place like LSU? You know, and I don't know the answer to that. So it's been unusually quiet. I threw out initially some names about OC right whenever Mike Denbrock left, and then I went on vacation. I was off for a week, and I haven't heard anything really since. Jim Arsenault, Christian Myers, you always say when it comes to NIL, Gordon can't do it alone. Just curious, is Todd Graves helping in NIL? Yes, he is. There are, but here's the thing that I tell you all the time, Christian, about NIL as well with Gordon, or not with Gordon, with Todd. Remember, there's 2 different ways of doing NIL. There's funding the collective, and then there's like real NIL, where you're paying athletes for endorsements, right? The tricky part, like Gordon is doing real NIL. I mean, obviously it's helping LSU tremendously, but it's also helping his brand. He actually has deliverables where these people, where all these athletes are doing videos and all this stuff with him. The tricky part with Canes, with Todd, is he's got Canes in every market in the country. So if Canes is an LSU supporter, but Canes is also in Tuscaloosa, at some point do they start looking and say, why would we support this guy? All the money's going to LSU. So that's the tricky part about Canes. But Todd has done NIL deals, not only with LSU athletes, but he's done NIL deals with lots of athletes around the country. But yes, he also does contribute to the collective. But the other thing people always forget, I say this, Todd Graves didn't go to LSU. He's a big LSU fan, but he didn't go to LSU. Todd went to Episcopal and then went to Georgia. He's a Georgia alum. Todd went to Georgia and then came back and opened up Canes here. Kirk Taylor, Henry Gordon Bennett. It's safe to say if Baker isn't announced today, Kelly's looking at a team still playing or an NFL assistant. No, if it's not Blake Baker today, it means Blake Baker decided to stay at Missouri. Timothy Fontenot, Tommy Primo. And again, I don't know what Blake Baker's going to do. If you just joined us late, I'll tell you what I said at the beginning of the show. Huey Lipsy said, do you think it's a done deal for Baker? I do not think it's a done deal for Baker. I want to reiterate. I will confirm what 247 reported, that Baker's the top target, and LSU pushed very hard to get that deal done yesterday, and that Eli Drinkwitz worked last night to try to convince him to stay. So him being Baker to stay. And I don't know what Blake Baker's going to do. And I would assume LSU typically, like, you want an answer, so you know, like, are you taking this job or do we need to move on to our next guy? So I think LSU will probably have that answer today from Blake Baker. I was told last night that he wanted to sleep on it. So, Tommy Primo, good morning. Kirk Taylor, if anyone wants to apply for DC spot, it's up on the state's website. Let's see the chair coach's shine. Hey, Jerry DeLucky, what up, Jerry? Kept my mind busy by watching you yesterday morning and the last Whiskey and Wine. Going home today, thanks for the prayers. You got it. Yeah, y'all keep Jerry in your prayers. He had a little procedure yesterday. I guess, Jerry, I say it's little when it's little when it's not me, right? But Jerry had a procedure yesterday. I don't need to go into any more detail, but spent the night at the hospital last night. Thanks to Yvette, Jerry's wife, who texted me last night to let me know that all was looking okay, which is good. But y'all, and so Jerry's heading home from the hospital today. So thanks for the update, Jerry. Appreciate it, man. We'll continue the prayers. Y'all say some prayers today for Jerry and his continued healing. David Wallace, what's going on? Y'all please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe up to the channel. By the way, I got to bounce here because we're taking Drew to the doctor. He's got an 8:30 doctor, so I got to get him up, get him out, get him to the doctor. So I got to wrap up like now, about 10 minutes early. Well, I started a little bit earlier as well today. So I know I'm going to miss a lot of you. But Phil Smith said, Matt, do you think Chad Johnson is going to come do the show for your bet? I do. I think he's good for it. I really do. But we'll see. Okay. Robert McLeod, does Lance Guidry get a hard look if Blake Baker falls through? Lance is one of the names I gave out on the initial list that I was told. The one that seemed like it got more attention aside from Baker was DJ Durkin. So DJ Durkin has been the DC at Michigan, Florida, Ole Miss. The last 2 years he was at A&M. I mean, A&M's teams weren't great, but their defenses were pretty good. He's only 45 years old. So if I had to guess, and I'm going to be clear, this is a guess. If it's not Blake Baker, I think DJ Durkin would be next in line. That's just a guess. I do not know the priority. That's just as I piece it together and sort of the information I have. It seems like that would be the next choice. So, okay, y'all, I'm sorry to leave. I got to bounce. Y'all, please smash that like button on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully we have some info today on the Blake Baker stuff. if not, see how quickly they move. So, but last night was pretty frantic. I mean, I would say I probably had about 7 different people I talked to, like coaches, agents, boosters, administrators. I mean, it was a pretty hectic night last night, but we'll see how it goes today. Okay. Y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. LSU Daily's live, AFR 3. Peace.